Yeah, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hardcore Metal Detecting Radio Show. I'm Derek Asklar. Craig Talley's on the line here. We'll be hosting the show tonight. Going to do open lines. If you have a topic you want to talk about, feel free to call in at 352-504-4170, and we'll get you on the air there, or you can just get on the chat right there. Bill Marsh is already over there. Go to chat just by going to our show there, Hardcore Metal Detecting Radio on Spreaker.com. And click the live show at the bottom. You can hit the comment button, and you can get right here on chat with Bill, and the rest of the guys will be filing in here shortly. But Craig, Craig and I were talking just before the show, and I talked about it last show. I've been cutting a lot of these trees down in our front yard. A lot of them are rotted and stuff. The storm damage from last year, bark rubbed off of them and stuff. And well, I have a good friend of mine, Allie. She's been cutting trees forever, and boom truck and all that stuff. And I was telling Craig, just about every one of the trees we have to rig it up and tie it off, and pretty much, she has a 50-foot boom, and we have 80 to 100-foot trees. So she's going up there and tying off and vertical totally, Craig, and cutting these trees, and you think it's going to come off and hit the house or something, it swings right back out the other way. She's really good at it. It takes a lot of skill to figure out all those, the geometry and everything, which way it's going to go and how it's going to go. And I asked her, man, doesn't it scare the crap out of you? And she thinks the same way I do. The minute you're not nervous about something like that, you're just nuts. You know what I mean? You get this 300 or 400-pound log flying through the air, it seems like. But she does an awesome job. She cut out like 43 trees off the other side of our property, and the same reason. There are all these water oaks, and they're real, all over the place down here in Florida, but a lot of the ones I have are literally hollow in the center, rotting out, and they'll be good like halfway up the tree, Craig, and then the rest of it's like got woodpecker holes and stuff in it. It's all rotted out, and these things are so unpredictable because they'll actually hold water in limbs. So you might cut into a log and have like you hit a water line, those come blasting out of there and stuff. So yeah, they're kind of unpredictable, but she does a really good job on doing all that. So I think the video may post up here in a minute. I was trying to do two things at once, and I don't know if that'll work or not, but or darn sure trying it anyway. Yeah, it posted up on the Hardcore site. I just put it up there for the heck of it. Let me see if I can close out of that without leave page. Okay, great. Well, I was able to upload the video, Craig, and do the radio show at the same time. I'm getting good, huh? But the one guy that I was doing the Toll Bridge property, he stopped by today. He's trying to find his survey markers over in Brooksville on another property he has. So I let him borrow one of my detectors and kind of gave him a little crash course on how to run it so you can kind of find them. But he showed me an aerial photo. I think he got it from the University of Florida off their website or something, and he showed me this, this blown up, it's actual photo. There's actually another bridge. I didn't even know about this one. He shows it in 1940, I think 46, I think it is, or 41, I can't remember, but there was an aerial photo of the area, and there was another bridge. We don't know where it is now or if there's any remnants of it yet, but that just turned me on to another place to hunt, because now I'm kind of scratching my head. I haven't had a chance to talk to Pauline about it or nothing, as far as that goes, but it's in between the two bridges there. It wasn't up very long because it's not up on the historic aerial photos in 57, I think. So the bridge didn't last long. Could have been washed out. Water could have risen and wiped it out or whatever else. But I just thought it was neat, just kind of tracking around all this old history for at least this area, and spotting new places to hunt at and stuff. And well, he was nice enough to show that to me, so we're going to see what happens. He also found on top of the hill, on that same photo, you could see what looks like a house and a barn. It's about 1,000 acres from where I'm hunting at right now by the river. But he said it used to be some kind of a cracker house, or maybe possibly even a cabin of some kind. But it's only it's the only photo we have of it is from that aerial photo in the 40s. So, it's on his property. So I'm going to, I told him once it cools down a little bit, I don't mind detecting in this, but man, I tell you, you get out there 7 or 8 hours, it just wipes you out. It's so hot out there, it just takes your breath away almost. But that's not uncommon for this time of year anyways. So, I figure by, late September, beginning of October, it should start getting a little bit more reasonable, or a little bit cooler anyways. We're still not through hurricane season and all that. Tell you what, that rain was coming down so bad the other night when we were on the show that I could barely hear you guys, or hear you, Craig, when you were talking. I don't know if you could hear it over the show here.
Yeah, I could hear it.
Yeah, I know you said you got pounded with rain today too. I mean, trying to get out detecting is a pain in the butt sometimes. You can't.
Yeah, we had the rain was hitting the roof next door so hard it was spraying up in the air like you see, there's waves breaking.
Yeah.
It was like it lasts for about a half an hour, and then it's bright blue sky.
Yeah.
Sun out. It's just been crazy. Up in I watched the Stealth Diggers, and Charlie was going to recon through the woods, and it was actually streams. Just the ground was so wet. It was just anywhere that water could sit or
it's just running out,
flow downhill. It was just running along the ground.
Yeah, that's just washing out. That's a lot of, I don't mind rain. I mean, rain's a good thing, but not all at once. When you get, I don't even know how many inches we got in not even in an hour. I mean, it was just coming down so hard, but the ground's not absorbing it; it's just running off. Like those steady rains.
Up and down the East Coast. I think almost all up and down the East Coast. It's just been an unusual summer. It's been cooler in most of the part.
Yeah. I'm glad it's cooler for them.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
we've gotten up maybe 94 once, and 91 too a couple times. This week it's been like maybe 86 to 87. But there's not that much humidity. But it's just, all up and down. All these people are complaining about all these storms. It's just the guy in Vermont. I watch this channel. It's called Green Mountain Metal Detecting, I think.
Yeah.
That guy he finds some unbelievable stuff. He just had this really great find. I won't tell you anything about it, but watch
it's a secret.
Last video.
It's a secret. Don't give up the punchline or the. Never mind. Go ahead. I can't talk.
But he was like getting caught out in the middle of the woods, like 3 miles into the woods, and it starts raining. Same with Charlie and those guys that Stealth Diggers.
I don't mind doing it. Well, I told Pauline, I said, I don't mind detecting it. What's kind of worrying me is it's so hot or so muggy and humid, and then you get these storms come in, and man, I tell you what, it's like an electrical nightmare out there. I mean, we're getting lightning strikes everywhere. Just the hot air hitting the cooler up atmosphere or whatever, causing a lot of heat lightning and actual lightning hitting the stuff and knocked our power out. Well, matter of fact, it knocked our power out that night too. After the show was done, about maybe a half an hour later, the power went off for a little while. But we're not the only ones. I mean, Earl's saying he got screwed up trying to go metal detecting. I think Bill Marsh said the same thing. He was detecting yesterday with a buddy, and they heard a thunderstorm coming. They got into the truck, and a tsunami hit, causing 4 accidents and on the freeway in 4 minutes. Yeah, and they do it down. I don't know if they do. They probably do it everywhere, but down here, man, you get on I-75, and that rain will start, coming down real hard, and you get everybody hitting their hazard lights and hitting their brakes, and I'm like, come on, guys, just don't stop in the 70-mile-an-hour zone. But they'll do that crazy stuff down here. I'm sure they do it everywhere too, but it seems like it's real prevalent here. And when it starts raining, you just stop in the middle of the road. But yeah, Earl and Robert Walgass is on tonight. Bob D's already on. So good evening, everybody. But like I said, if you want to get on chat, anybody wants to get on chat, just click on the comment button there on the live show on Spreaker.com, and you can get on here and talk with these guys too. They have a ton of experience and everything also. I wanted to say, when you guys, and Craig, this is kind of, it's with metal detecting, but it's kind of like off-topic thing, but when you guys are shipping, anytime you ship a metal detector to somebody or to the to get it fixed or what have you, And I just wanted to say, wrap these things a little bit better. You might, use some bubble wrap newspaper or anything. I just got one in Friday, and literally, and I got photos, I need to put them up, but the box, the top of the detector shaft is, upper detector shaft is sticking out of the box through the side. The top of it, the tape, they use packing tape. I don't know what the heck that posted with it, but the bottom of the box, I was surprised anything survived. I opened the box up and there was a little bit of bubble wrap, but that was it. It was pretty much in this great big box. I'm not sure why, but I just wanted to say, guys, be careful when you're shipping this stuff. Make sure it's bulletproof the best you can, because I'm telling you, I've had a couple. Well, matter of fact, Brent Sanchez is another one that he sent me his detector. He had shipped it, not FedEx, but UPS, and the knobs were all bent over and all this other stuff. It was crazy. I fixed it up for him, no problem, but I don't know for sure if he's going to bill them for it or what the deal is. But and he packs stuff really good, Craig. That's what kind of threw me off. But I don't know what's happening. It seems like it's it doesn't matter whether it's FedEx or whatever else. It seems like stuff's getting beat up a little bit, but we got to do our part too to make sure our stuff is wrapped up right in there. You remember a couple years ago, Craig, where when we first started doing the Bliss tool, they were shipping them. I don't know if did he ship you one like with just barely any kind of foam in it? I don't know when you got yours, what it was like, but
I don't remember.
Yeah, mine didn't have hardly anything. Now the control box was wrapped good.
One thing I was saying to people is try to save the stuff that they wrap the machine in the box.
Right.
A lot of times, that'll protect it, because I haven't had any problem like that over the years on having metal detectors shipped, like I never had any damage much, but usually they pack everything in foam and stuff inside those.
Well, you guys, anybody who gets one from or got one from us, usually I take bubble wrap and I bubble wrap the crap out of the thing, and then tape it. It sounds crazy, but I've seen strange stuff happen in shipment. And I figure if anything else, if I can keep the control box totally, or the best I can, protected, there's really nothing else other than, I guess, bending a mid shaft or breaking a shaft on a detector. There's really nothing else that can, do any real damage. It'd have to almost be a crushing blow to it to hurt anything. But, the control boxes, that's the most, like, even if you have a Equinox or whatever, you guys want to make sure you have them wrapped up good if you're shipping them somewhere, because you don't want the headache of having to send it in and get it fixed and all that junk. It's a lot of paperwork and aggravation, so just kind of wanted to throw that out there. Not sure why the guy sent me, I think it was Tim sent it to me, he didn't take the detector control box off the upper shaft. And it, I don't know if he didn't remember it went on there or it comes off of there, but he sent me the whole top, like we used to do with the V3s, so... But it's okay, by the way. I got it fixed up for him. So all I can think of is that he's having problems with falsing and or not being able to quiet the machine down. And Craig, I honestly think that he's having a serious problem with EMI. According to, I took it out by the breaker box, and anywhere it throws an EMI off, they're trying to get the machine to get so erratic that I can't do anything with it. And I can't, it's working for me fine. So I did make a couple adjustments inside the machine, but he was having a problem. He couldn't, it was just chatty and all this other stuff, and I'm not sure, maybe it was I put a new battery in it for him, but it was like overcharged, but it wasn't by much, but I just figured, well, maybe that did it, but I don't know, it's essentially good. Guys, sometimes, if you're detecting, the best thing I could tell you to do when you get a new detector, or maybe you're just getting into the hobby or whatever, if you're taking it to a spot and you cannot get the thing to be stable, like an EMI, or there's just so much trash or whatever, take the machine someplace else, a mile down the road or something. Only because you might be dealing with just EMI and all that junk on that property. It's not the machine. It's the way you're adjusting the machine. This is one of those things. But take it away from that at an area like that to get used to the machine, And then when you get a little bit of time with it, then you can take it back in there, because I think it's just, Craig, I think, he was running automatic ground balance with it. I noticed that on the machine, but he said he had tried several different settings. And Tim's newer to the hobby, but he's a quick study. I just think he had I'm thinking it was just pretty much, gain and threshold, and maybe the discrimination wasn't high enough. I'm not even sure. I didn't even ask him if he used iron ore mode, but I've never been in a situation. I know you haven't either, Craig, where with that V6. I mean, you've been within 10 foot of power lines, high tension wires, and I've run it under these big grids. Right under the big grids too. I mean, I've never had a problem with EMI with the machine, but not being able to just adjust it out appropriately. But yeah, I mean, so just some information there. Just use your best judgment when you're sending machines to somebody. And if if you're having problems in one area with a machine, take it to something totally different, and see how it reacts for you there. It's probably just an adjustment that you're making, or you're dealing with some serious kind of other stuff going on as far as EMI or what have you. Craig, you were telling me about I haven't done any testing on quarters, but Craig said he saw a video with that Quest Pro, the Technics Quest Pro there. They did a depth test on a quarter. And Craig, you said it was 20 inches down? Or 25?
They were testing it first with, they had the bigger coil on it, and then they had it in wet sand, and it was getting a good meter reading on a quarter at 5 inches, but then it started degrading after that. But and they were saying that it didn't do good in the swinging it with the coil under the water. But Derek says they're coming out with some kind of firmware.
Yeah, I talked to
kind of fix that, but. But anyway, the impressive thing was they started testing it in in dirt, and they were getting a repeatable signal at 20 inches on a quarter.
It's damn good. Yeah,
and I thought that was pretty good. Yeah,
I've done 10-inch. I've done a 10-inch dime with the Quest Pro, and it nailed it. And I think I could probably get away with 11 or 12 inches down on a dime. Possibly, and that's going to depend on your settings too. And guys, with that detector, and you could try whichever frequency you want. It's got three. I think it's 5, 13, and 20. I believe that's what it is off the top of my head. The 13 kilohertz, that seems to work the best for me for actual hunting, relic hunting, whatever. When you're going into the 20 kilohertz. You're looking more gold items, jewelry items, prospecting or whatever, because you're looking for gold and stuff like that, and that's probably going to be your best bet for frequency.
Yeah, the high frequency seems to be better in saltwater anyway. I know that.
Well, I know I was getting a 0.5 gram nugget with the Quest 40 at like 4 or 5 inches above it. And it's kind of like an air test in a way, but it's still it's sensitive to small items. That impressed me a little bit. It's like a picker, but it's pretty small. As far as that goes, that's raw gold. But that 5 kilohertz, that's more for your catch hunting or coin spills or whatever. It's like you're trying to find a treasure box.
Hunting.
Relic, big time relic hunting but I don't know.
Yeah. The trouble is that frequency you can't pick up buttons very deep. Usually.
Right.
I used to use a Fisher, I think 1265X, and that thing was really deep on a bullet with a like a 9-inch coil. Extremely, I could get a bullet at a foot easy back then.
Right.
Probably the deepest machine I ever had back then that could hit a bullet that deep. And
let's just say deeper, bigger items.
You couldn't hardly find an eagle button at 3 or 4 inches.
Really?
It was crazy. Yeah, because of the frequency.
I'm going to try that now because I don't think I'm having those kind of problems with this. But that, it's also different kind of technology in it, I'm sure. Newer technology. But I just didn't think that it was sensitive enough on all targets, I guess you could say. I like a little bit of chattiness when I'm hunting. It just I don't care if it's just even rogue beeps once in a while, just to like little iron spits and stuff like that. I wasn't getting those with the 5 kilohertz the same as I was the 13 kilohertz, but that it might be apples and oranges. I don't know. I don't have to do some testing with that.
Yeah, that was another thing with the Fisher. It was better to hunt like a battlefield area instead of like a campsite with all the iron nails and crap in the ground. The machine just didn't work good in real busy sites, but in like a battlefield, it was really good on digging deep iron, deep bullets, and plates and stuff like that. But,
yeah,
wasn't so good on buttons. I used to joke, I actually, went behind people and dug buttons behind them, and they were saying, I said, no, those machines just don't go that deep on the buttons, and I even one time we were at this camp and it was hardly anything there, and so I was stepping on like, little branches and stuff and bending them over and then running a coil over top of them, so I could
yeah, don't want
to get a signal that nobody else had ever gotten, because
right.
the little branches in the way. And I got this button signal, and I called about a couple people over, and a guy with a Nautilus, I had a Toltec 100, and this guy with a Nautilus came over, and he checked it, and he goes, yeah, that sounds like a button to me. And this guy with a Fisher, he pumps the whole thing up, you can't hear it. And
wow.
I popped I think it was an Eagle A cuff button with gold all over it. The guy goes, I'm getting ready to get sick.
Yeah.
Over there.
Over there. Stay away from my area. Oh, God. Well, you said the Deus. Go ahead.
This same guy was, one time we were water hunting, and all of a sudden he had an underwater Fisher machine, and we were all using the Thesaurus. And so all of a sudden he yells out, he goes, you guys aren't going to like this. And he holds up this stirrup, and it looked like it had been painted gold. And it was an officer's stirrup with eagles on the side of it and everything. I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, the Deus, on the Deus Creek, just real quick, what, you said there's a 4 kilohertz? Is that right? On a
4.
But people can't
use 7, 11, and 20. It's 17.7.
Now, do you have the same problem with 4? I mean, I've heard that 4 kilohertz is pretty hard for most people.
4 kilohertz. It doesn't. It just doesn't work really good. It may on some of the newer programs, but
right.
I never could get it to work that good.
Why? That's what I was wondering.
It's a relic. There's a relic mode, but it just seems noisy. It just, I don't know.
Wonder if you turned down or turned up
the most stable one is the 17 kilohertz, but
yeah,
it works. If you use that Deus Fast in that higher kilohertz, you wouldn't believe the stuff I picked out along the fence in the high nails, and
right.
It's it really works.
And they call it, what do they call that? High?
I got a couple things at the Bliss Tool Miss. I got a quarter that there was an huge iron piece of iron bolt or something. It was laying right across the quarter. In fact, had rust around the date when I got it out of the ground.
Oh,
wow. And just all it gave was a high tone. No real good meter reading or anything.
When you put that,
it was only an inch and a half deep.
That's weird.
Was crazy.
Yeah, it just might have been the angle too. You were lucky enough to get it by an angle that you could get a piece of it. That's pretty cool, though. I mean, is that you're saying that's fast? Is that just explain that a little bit, because I'm not familiar with the Deus as much, but
yeah, you can change the the signal ratio. Like the relic mode goes it's slower,
Mm-hmm.
so it goes deeper.
Right.
And like the Deus Fast is the fastest recovery speed, and it's just lightning fast, and you can pick stuff, right out of the nails.
I'm wondering if that Quest Pro, that FenSen,
Probably as good as any of them, but it's not quite as deep, at that higher frequency. I like to try to hunt it, I like 7, if I can hunt it 7.
right?
7.7, I think it is. It's funny how they got, I think they've copyrighted or they patented the name of the frequency on their machines or something. So it's like Deus did, like, instead of 7 kilohertz or 8 kilohertz, they have 7.7. Each one has got 0.7 on it. I don't know.
I think I'm going to try this because it now that you're telling me what that does on the Deus, I think they call it FenSen or something, FeSend or something like that on the Quest Pro. I wonder if that's frequency sensitivity or something like that. I don't know what you'd call it because it does. I'll have to do a video to explain it better, but essentially it's almost like it's. Of course, when you're in normal mode or whatever, you're hunting, you're listening for high, the high tweaks, and sometimes when you get into really high trash areas, nail bed or whatever, like in a cellar hole site or whatever, they say to use the FinSen, and it's going to make it a lot noisier, but it almost seems to key on the higher tweak of the non-ferrous item versus the iron. In other words, the iron's still going to be there. You're still going to get a sound on it, but the amplification is going to go to the non-ferrous side, whatever the good target is in the ground with the nails. And I need to do some real testing with that. Guys, it's just been miserable out here. That's the reason I haven't done a lot of this stuff yet. Believe me, I'm wanting to very badly, but to put this thing through some more tests. Because I think this machine, I've said it since day one, this machine has something special. But if, I haven't even tested it on quarters like that guy has. Well, I'm definitely going to check it out because I figure if a machine can hit a quarter at 15 or 16 inches down, it's a pretty doggone good machine. Because I'm hitting shotgun shells. It's brass now, 12 gauge shells at least 12 inches down with this thing a couple times already. And that's me not having my mind fully wrapped around on what some of these settings are as far as the different locking on your ground balance, essentially not, to move it around positive to the positive side to get more depth, that kind of thing, and the discrimination too. I lowered that down, Craig, because I get a tone on it, but I've been using two-tone, 2 or 3 tone. I think it was 3 tone with the Quest Pro. I think it has four different levels for that. Now the Quest 40 has, I think, 6 or 8. I think it's 6 tone, and that became so. I don't. It's too much information for me. I went to 3 tone on it. That way I'm knocking out iron or whatever. I'm iron and then I have two frequency or 2 tones for non-ferrous items. Just because 6 tones gets me, I don't know, it drives me batty, especially when you're in a trashier area. It's just like it sounds like noise. Obviously when you go over a good target, and it locks onto it, you're gonna hear it repeatable same way. But it's just getting there is just so noisy that I can't pick it out what I'm really wanting to hear. So leaving it on 3 tone, 1 for iron and then 2 for non-ferrous items, depending on where you want the range to hit in, to lock on at. I think I have it set up at between 30 and 65 or something like that is the 1 tone, and then 65 to 99 is the high tone that I use. So it's just easier, I think, in a way. Sometimes you can have too much information, and I don't know. People run in full tones sometimes. I don't know. Especially with like the AT Pro running full tones, I used to do that too, and Deus and all that. Just getting as many as you can in there. But when you have 6 of them, that to me it gets kind of nuts. I don't know, because I'm going to dig it anyways. If it's non-ferrous, I'm going to dig it up because you just don't know what the heck it could be. It might tell you it's a coin, but it could be anything, or like a pull tab, or a square tab. It could be a nickel. or a piece of gold ring, a gold ring or something like that, a small gold ring. So you don't want to miss that stuff, but I also don't need to have it micromanaged that much where I have to have all those tones in there. Sometimes I think it makes the machine think too much, if that makes sense. Too many processes.
You like it done. I love full tones, and I know people that hate it.
Yeah, I just can't.
And I know this one good hunter that he does one tone. Most people do 3 or 4 tones.
Yeah.
Or even 5, but I like the full tones. But the guy that used the one tone says he can tell the nuance of aluminum, and he doesn't dig those signals.
Well, it's good though. But, I mean, yeah. And I think that makes sense because this machine has a lot of nuance in it, in the tones too.
He also doesn't use the newer programs either.
He's just using the stock.
The 3.2.
Right.
They're up to. They went to 4 and then 4.2, 4.1 or 4.2, I think it was, and then they got. Now they're on 5, and then they had to go to 5.1 to pair the headphones or the pinpointer. I think they had to pair the pinpointer, so they had to do another update. But they're getting into these high frequency coils now, and these guys are telling me they're going back to spots and high iron and picking stuff like crazy out of there.
Yeah,
and with sometimes surprisingly good signals, where they've been over that spot, with a lot of detectors plus the Deus before, and
not had any.
It's like three different. I think the 3 different frequencies in these new coils. But, they even got a 12 by 13 or something inch coil.
Well, I think they're getting more precise too. I mean, as technology advances in the way that we make this stuff and how we put it together, it becomes better and better, over time. So I think, with these newer machines are just, they're just better in a way, as far as the way they're made. A little bit more reliable, better sensitivity, and maybe the chips they're using, obviously, as new chips and circuitry comes out in the general market, they can put these kind of items into the machine and have a higher performance metal detector because it's working better. I mean, I like a lot of the stuff on a couple of the machines I've worked on. I can notice where items have changed, maybe color or the way they're wired in. It's obviously different kind of circuitry. It's not the same as what we've had in there. So, especially from like the even in the V5s, Craig, if I had one from even 4 months apart, there'd be a different circuit. It isn't saying it's not going to, the original's not going to work good. It's just that, as technology got better, he put better stuff in there, as far as the different circuits and stuff like that as they improved. So yeah, it's going to work better. But I mean, even the original worked good. I mean, you're just trying to make the machine, as upgrades can be made, you make them. So, I think that's probably the same as any company does, really, to find something that works a little bit better, a little bit easier to deal with. That's what I've done anyways. On some of these, I've changed some stuff around on my personal machines just because, I didn't like, the way the wires are run or this or that. I don't do anything major on the board itself, but the way it's run sometimes, stuff can happen when you get these machines open. That's why I always tell the guys to send them to me. I'll put the battery in for you because it's such a tight fit that you could actually, and it happened to Craig. I did it to Craig by accident as I put a new battery in one of his machines. And I turned the machine on, and I didn't put a coil on it or nothing like that. I just, okay, now it's working. The battery's good. And I sent it back to Craig, and he says, I can't even pick up a 3-inch, not even a 1-inch quarter. I said, what the heck are you talking about? He said, oh, I'm doing it. Look, you can hear it. It's not doing nothing. So he sends me the machine back, and when I put the machine together, the case together, where you plug the positive, there's a harness in there to plug the battery into the board. And it's on like a wire, like a junction wire. When I pushed the machine together, I didn't look on that side. You have to kind of peek in there. It's a process to get the thing back together. But anyways, I actually knocked one of the little circuits, whatever, one of the wires were touching. and it was just causing the machine would work and it would act fine, but it wasn't detecting anything. And all it was is that little bitty wire.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah.
I got a steady threshold.
Yep.
You know, nice threshold, and you know, I had to quickly scrape like a quarter across the coil to get the threshold to even change. You know, that's
freaked
all
me
I
out.
could do. And I was going, what in the heck's going on? What did I do?
Well, it took me a week, guys. Craig sent me the machine back, and it took me a week to figure it out.
So frustrated. He was like, you know, changed every knob.
Yeah, I changed out six of the knobs. Because I was putting it on the oscilloscope and everything was reading fine, but it's like, God, it just wasn't working. So, of course, I changed the threshold. I changed the gain.
This machine, you
No.
know, you know, the box and everything was fine when I got it. And, you know, so it wasn't, you know, it probably wasn't, you know, damaged in between.
A week later, after a case of beer and a bottle of Jack Daniels, I figured out what the problem was. I looked, I don't know why I didn't see it. Oh, buddy, I was calling Craig, and I said, dude, I'm not seeing what the heck's going on with this thing. I said, it's passing everything I know to do, and I was almost to the point where I was going to have to send it to Bulgaria, and I'm like, God, I know this machine. I know it ins and out. When you know something, and you know how something works for the most part, and that could frustrate anybody, but it turned out to be a little bitty wire touching another little bitty wire right on the board, you know, the stems where you solder them in at. I literally took a toothpick, because, you know, I don't want to use metal on the board or whatever, and just moved it over a 1/16 of an inch or something, not even that far. And lo and behold, the machine worked like the day it was made. After a week and a bunch of alcohol. It drove me to drinking, Craig.
Yeah, I can testify. It works great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I've done some
silly
fabulous stuff with that machine. So
I always
can't
say this,
complain at all.
No, I mean, it's just the silliest things. You know, I have a thing I always say, you know, when I go outside to do, you know, some work outside or you know, work on a detector, go metal detecting, you know, if stuff doesn't fall into place relatively easily, where, you know, you have to take one or two different steps to do what you're trying to get done, and on the day that you go out there, it takes you 20 steps to get one thing done that shouldn't have taken that long. It's time to go back inside and relax and maybe crawl back into bed and go back to bed again. That's what I figured out anyway. There's some days everything I touch turns to, you know what. And it's like I walk in the house and tell Polly, and say, you know what? She goes, well, what are you doing out there? I said, I'm nothing. I'm sitting down. I'm going to get on the computer and I'm going to watch TV for a few hours. And then if Mother Nature cooperates and everything else and all the stars align, maybe I'll get something done today. She says I get, you know, kind of pessimistic, but I don't know. I'm a glass half empty guy sometimes. So then I'll call Craig and start BSing with him, and he's just always jolly and happy. You drive me crazy, Craig. All that positivity. Shoot. But at any rate, yeah, but anyways, yeah, working on these, really any of the machines. I've had, you know, the whites opened up and stuff, because I buy and sell detectors like everybody else does. So if I get one that's not working quite right, if it's something I can fix, like a knob or something like that, maybe it's a wire that got pulled free or something, I can do that kind of stuff. But, you know, usually the best bet, and I haven't had much problem. Craig, have you had any problems over the years buying used detectors from like individuals, like off of eBay, you know, U.S. side or whatever? Have you had a lot of problems? Because I haven't. I've only had a couple minor issues.
No, I haven't myself. And I had to send the Toltec 100 back 3 times, I think it was, and twice I'd gone through the woods and pulled the headphone cord so hard it messed up the jack. And so it would work, you know, I could use a speaker, but it wouldn't work through the headphones.
Oh.
And Jack Gifford said he'd never seen anybody ever do that on any machine they ever had. And he said, you did it twice. And so they put 2 giant screws on the thing to keep it from doing that.
Oh, my God.
So I said I had a special modification.
There you go. The high-tech...
But, I bought a... well, actually, my friend Mike gave me a Minelab Explorer he'd gotten, and it wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it would turn on, and you could actually get signals, but it was so noisy. It was just, you couldn't hunt more than 10 minutes before it would drive you crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I had it fixed, and it cost, I think it cost me $500 to get it fixed.
Damn.
But they put gave me a brand new coil, and that was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I ended up buying another one. But that one, what was the other one I had? I had to have the Nautilus. I had to have the coil
Retuned.
retuned.
Yeah.
It goes out of
null.
Yeah. So I had to have that done like 2 or 3 times, I think.
I've often wondered how that happened so much with the Nautilus. What was different about the coil itself? I know that I never really had that
problem. It's a real thick, kind of hollow coil. It sounds almost hollow, or maybe it's foam inside, but it's very sturdy, and it didn't have it's like was told it didn't have coil cover. It's
right.
just like kind of epoxy,
Mm-hmm.
And but the thing is you're banging around a lot with that coil, and one thing was, that machine was so heavy you could just plow through the brush and stuff with it, and it didn't really false when it hit stuff like a lot of machines do.
I thought,
but,
since you're talking about coils, I noticed something on the Quest that's different from what I've ever seen on a coil, well, that I can remember anyways. And I took the coil cover off. I just wanted to see, because it has a coil cover on there, what the bottom was made out of, or whatever. And I pulled the coil cover off, and it's hollow, and it has like that. It almost reminds me of like the stick glue, like the glue guns have, the clear, hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's in there. You can actually, it's clear. It's almost like, I don't know why they made it like that. It's durable. It seems to be fine, but I was just curious why they didn't actually put a cover on the bottom of the coil. They used the coil cover as the cover. But the only thing I had questioned about that is that, and I just had it on the beach the one time, that when I took the coil cover off to look and see if there was any sand, there was sand in there. So, if you were hunting in a mineralized ground like in Culpeper or whatever else, and you got a bunch of dirt in there, that will mess with your detector sometimes, So, but I was surprised it didn't have. I'll have to take a picture of it. I thought it was pretty cool, if anything else, but they've done it differently, and maybe that's the way they do it now. I don't know, but with these other detector brands and stuff like that, what does it actually look like in there? Inside the coil, not without any covering on it. But yeah, it's just copper wires wound a certain way and run around in there. But as far as the out of null thing, I mean, I know that the Nautilus did. I know that I think it was the D2 coil back in the 2009, 2010. That's the one that goes on the White's machine. I think it's 10 or 11 inch coil. I don't know. The one that comes standard with it's a D2 coil. It would go out of null, and I set mine in twice in 3 years, and they were real good about it. They just gave me a new coil, and I don't think I had to pay anything but shipping, which was really cool of White's to do that. But I don't hear of a lot of them. I mean, is there more machines, Craig? Have you heard of more machines that have that problem, or is it? Because I haven't run into that.
Not really.
I've never run into it with our coils at all. I mean, our coils, they work or they don't.
Most
I mean,
of that I've heard was, a long time ago, but I'm sure that every once in a while there's probably some kind of foam or some kind of sealer in there to keep those wires from moving around.
Right.
I've never really. I remember my friend Steve next door. He had a Bandito, and he wore the coil down to the point where you could see the wires and it was still working.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Noisy.
Yeah, I keep on.
I'd used that same machine for about 3 years myself, and then I sold it to him, and then he used it for another 8 years probably. maybe 10. He got his money out of it.
I think I have some.
Mike had one too.
Mm-hmm.
Those are nice little relic hunting machines.
I know. I got
good and a little bit better in the bad grounds too than some of the machines.
Right. Yeah,
but,
I only have. I think I have one. I've had one coil. It was a 7x9 coil, and I'm not even sure. Only because it old California Paul, in old California they call him.
Mm-hmm.
He'd plugged in a totally different charger into the bliss tool, and essentially it didn't fry everything, but it popped all the safeties in the machine, and I think it killed the battery just by plugging the wrong charger in. But he's also the one that when I sent his machines back, he put that coil on. This was a time before he put that coil on. It was a new coil, and it made the V6. It popped the safeties in it, and I never did put it on another machine because I don't want to fix another machine. I got it out here. I may test it. You could just, I had to run a test on it anyways. But, he said, it was bad. It fried his machine, and I fixed it up for him, sent it back to him. But the coils themselves, I have a 11-inch coil that a dog chewed off the coil cable, one of my customers, and I have that one. I'm not going to do anything with it. So I might take that coil and cross-cut. I'm going to cross-cut that thing and see what I'll do a video on it because I think it's pretty interesting anyways. And I have matter of fact, I think I have an old White's coil. I'll do that with it. Maybe, just to see what, I got tinkeritis sometimes and I got to see what's going on or visually see how they work and everything. But I don't know if I'll be able to get. I have another coil too that is coil cable was ripped off. That was the one that the one guy sent us. It fell down with the machine and caught the cord on something and it stretched it and broke the inside of the wire that goes through the coil cable. And that's possible. That's why I always tell people don't wrap them. Well, like if you have an S shaft on your detector. And the control box sitting behind, kind of like what a White's is or a Bliss tool, whatever. Be careful. Don't put too much tension between where you have it connected to the mid shaft and everything, where it goes back into the control box. Don't put a lot of tension between your handle and the back of the box, or it connects into the box. If you do fall or whatever, and obviously we try not to let the detector take the brunt of it, but if it does, it'll stretch that coax cable. Your coil cable, and it can actually break inside of the coax. They make these coil cables really strong, or at least with most of the upper, top level machines, but they're not going to handle that kind of stuff because it is electronics, and it is, either it's going to work or it's not. That's what it was happening with the one, it would work sometimes and then it would crackle and pop, and that's what it was the coil cable was bad. But I want to see what's inside of there. I mean, I know a little bit. I saw them, hand. Well, they actually do them by hand in Bulgaria when they make those the coil wires and stuff all inside the coil. They make those themselves. All they have is a shell, and they do everything pretty much by hand cranked wrapper and everything. So I don't know how everybody else is doing. I'm sure they have machines doing it a lot of times with the more machine. They have these huge orders. They got to do it somehow, so they automate a lot of the stuff. But I think it'd be kind of neat to see the inner workings of them. And maybe differences between the coils, brands of coils, and how they're doing it. Something, gain a little bit of information from it may make you a better hunter. You understand the coils and the equipment a little bit better. I think that's probably why I've always, tinkered around with them. See how do you make them better, and what works, what doesn't. Just to improve the hunt, you're going to be going on to find stuff. And Craig, you're kind of the same way too with settings. I think I got you into that more and more, especially with the V6 and the different coils and stuff, and how you actually set the machines up. Every machine that you have multiple coils for, you're going to have to change your settings around a little bit, at least as far as discrimination and stuff like that. And sometimes just an example off the top of my head, you go from say an AT Pro with a stock coil to a Nell Tornado coil. I mean, there's a lot of difference, and people have said that, and I know this too, that the VDI numbers don't come up on the deeper targets very steady or whatever, but the tone is there, the sound is there, and it's letting you know there's something good in the ground. And sometimes the VDI numbers will be different too, won't they, Craig? Depending on, or is that frequency? Can't remember now.
Mm,
I think it's probably
no,
frequency or something.
Yeah, it's usually it stays about the same. I don't know.
What like on the dais, if you switch from like say you're on 7 and you go to 17, do your numbers change like on a penny or the VDI number, or do you know? I know some of the
I'm not
machines
sure.
did that.
I don't think they do. But I'm not positive about that.
I thought there was a
'Cause
Mind
I
Lab.
really don't.
I thought
I really don't use the numbers that much on it.
maybe it was
But,
the E-Track I was thinking about. One of the it was maybe a Mind Lab or a Whites or the VDI numbers that they would change.
yeah, like
God, it's a term for it. I can't remember it.
Like the E-Track, I think the CTX 3030 and the Equinox, I think they got the two different numbers. They get the ferrous and non-ferrous numbers.
Right.
And like you get a 11 or 12, 46 or something. I think it's a quarter, silver quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can ID the target,
Mm-hmm.
you can almost tell. That's why they call it the silver machine. You could just pick silver coins out of the ground with it.
Oh yeah, I remember the people. You don't see a lot. I mean, I see quite a few actually E-Tracks out there, but you don't see a lot of talk about them as much as the CTX. Of course, CTX was.
It was a big talk when
Yeah, it was
5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, 6, 7 years ago, it was a big time Mind Lab machine.
Probably. Yeah. Well, I was considering getting one,
Mm-hmm.
but
well, the only reason I did is the sound. I just didn't like the tones it made. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. But that's the only reason I didn't get one.
Yeah.
Because it was.
Well, yeah, it was the same tone as the Explorer was.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple tones plus that weird, buzzy kind of sound.
Whatever.
The one I can't. I know there's Technetics and the Fishers are pretty good machines, but that grunting sound they make, when they go.
Yeah.
They make this. Oh my God! I said, is there any nuances in that sound?
Yeah, you can't. You gotta. I've always liked a flat. I think that's. I don't know. It spoiled me with the Bliss tool. I didn't have to listen to multiple tones. I knew if it was good, it came through. If it was non-ferrous, and if it wasn't, it was like you just picked out so much out of that one tone that you didn't need to have multiple tones. That was one of the things people were saying. Well, I wish it had multiple tones, and I wish I had this, and and in a way, Ahmed told me was that the more he puts into the machine, the more he's going to sacrifice the performance of the machine. In other words, more bells and whistles equal less depth in a way, because he's had to add a lot of that. It sometimes simple is good. Straight up, works this way. Why change anything when it's a tone for iron wasn't really needed? Obviously, if you're getting a pop, there's simple ways to just make it. Obviously with a discrimination depth and level. If you want to hear square nails, you can turn it down enough to hear square nails or items that size. The bigger items like axe heads and stuff like that, I can actually tune those all the way out. But I like big iron, because things were, it could be a syrup, tin full of coins or a paint can full of coins or anything really. I mean, a lockbox, whatever, they're all iron, metal, steel, whatever. So those bigger items, I mean, you always take that chance. I always try to dig at least 2 or 3 of those every time I'm out, these weird iron targets, but there's ways of hearing it and not having to have a tone for it or a VDI number for it. And I just I guess over the past 5 years, I've really just kind of worried about the sound. There's so much more information to be found in the sound, I think, than in all the stuff you could visually see on a detector. And I use it, like on the Quest, I mean, I'm hunting by sound. And if I see something and I'm kind of learning the machine, so obviously if I go over a target and it sounds good, I'm going to look down at the VDI number. But it's not something I'm a slave to like I was, say, 7 or 8 years ago when I had my Whites. My neck was killing me because I'm always looking at that screen. And I was trying to use all these analysis screens or whatever you want to call them on there. They had the different waves going on them and colors and this and that. Instead of just digging the item, if you when in doubt, dig. That's what I started doing. And when I got the Bliss tool, it became so easy. The first couple times out with it, going from going to an analog straight tone machine, it was a big change at first, but I found it so simple after about a week with the machine that it's like, I like this better. I can look around and see everything and, kind of keep an eye around me, and I'm just listening for a tone. And I can tell from the tone, how well it's modulated, whether it's a good item or not, or if it lets go. It's kind of like you do with the Nautilus, or I'm trying to think of one of the Thesaurus or the Gold Bugs, whatever. Doesn't matter. Any machine that doesn't have a screen, you're going to do the same thing with it, but you got to have enough technology in that to essentially be able to tell just by hearing. That it makes it so much simpler for you in the end. If you're in somebody's yard, that's one thing, but not, you're in the middle of a field or the middle of the woods or out in the water. The VDI numbers don't matter so much. You'll find that you're going to start ignoring them as time goes on and just go by sound. You hear everybody say that, in the videos and stuff. Well, I'm not getting a good VDI number, but it sounds good, so I'm going to dig it. It makes sense. So, you don't, as you're getting, maybe if you're new to the hobby, that would help you more.
I've over the years, people say, they're all upset because the meter isn't working like they thought it would, when they first bought a machine, and I try to explain to them, it doesn't, here I'm using, like a Bandito that doesn't have a, just had a 10.5-inch coil, no meter.
Right.
And I was just going by, digging every signal. Mm-hmm. And I actually used to run the thing at zero discrimination in the woods, and I never used, I never pinpointed with all metal. I just hunted, indiscriminate and pinpointed discriminate. Mm-hmm. But these other people would have these meter machines, and they'd miss stuff because it just didn't read right on the meter, or it didn't,
right,
flake signal. And if that's the thing about when you're listening instead of looking at the meter. I think the meter tends to distract you a little bit,
Well, I think if you used a meter as a tool or an accessory to help their hunt, that's one thing. But I think a while back, we're talking 10 years ago, whatever, back when the MXTs came out and, all these screen machines, even before that, they made it sound so much like you're going to know what you're digging by looking at the screen. It's going to tell you what it is before you dig it. And it's true, but it's also vague because you don't know what the heck that item is until you pull it out of the ground. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten an 85 or an 86 and said, oh boy, it's a quarter, and come up with something totally different. So it's accurate to a point. And a lot of them, what I've seen, and it will say prior to 2 years ago, if you did a depth, you hit the pinpoint button, it's telling you how deep it is, or even by the VDI numbers, the way they jump and stuff like that, that's gotten better. Obviously, with these, at least with the Quest, it has, because that's the machine I've been using. But they're a lot more accurate. When I do my videos, I'm right there. Did a couple, pretty much, just videos. Heck, Craig, I can't even figure the word out now. Review videos, whatever. Review a product. I take it out there and I bury the stuff. I measure, make sure it's the right depth, and then I bury it. And I do my test. And, the thing that I thought was neat is every one of them I was getting those dimes, and I hit the pinpoint on there, and it was within an inch every single time, and it didn't matter whether it was 5 inches down or 10 inches down. It was always within 1 inch. And usually it's probably like if it's a 10-inch item, it's going to read 9, and it's going to bounce to 10. And that's the first screen machine I've had in the last 5 years that was even that accurate at those depths. Usually, anything 5-6 inches down, a lot of the machines don't have a problem with, as far as the pinpoint telling you how deep the item is. But with this machine, it's pretty much dead on. Even the VDI numbers don't jump that much, unless you're on some kind of weird ground, like Craig mentioned, the saltwater beach where they had it was a little bit noisy. I'm pretty sure that the firmware update went into my machine because I literally took me less than 10 minutes to do a firmware update on the Quest Pro. But I did talk to Evan. And he said that they were talking about writing a whole new another saltwater program for the Quest Pro. And it's going to be like a firmware update type thing, and it may not be out yet. I'll have to check on that. But I had it at the beach, and yeah, it did get, I knew what to do, but it did get a little bit chatty, a lot chatty actually, until I made some adjustments with the machine and used some ground balance techniques that I know, and it smoothed it out, but it was still a little bit noisy probably for a novice to use that machine. It's pretty much just the programming inside there. They're able to change it like they would on Deus or what have you. Or I think some of the MindLab machines are the same way. You can actually do updates and stuff on them. So they're able to change some of that stuff to make it more stable in that environment. But I haven't had any, going through Hot Rocks and stuff, Craig, that blew my mind with the machine. I mean, that's really hard for most of the VLFs I've ever used to even pick up a bullet or a quarter on top of a good-sized Hot Rock. Usually, the VLFs can't do it. And I'm actually putting stuff underneath the Hot Rock and going through it to get it, and then take an item out, and it's not there. Obviously it's not giving you a signal. And I know that a lot of the machines before, I'd say, I think the Ballista was the first one I found that would do it. And we're not talking pulse machines or anything. We're just talking VLFs. But for a long time there, we were the only ones that could do that. This Quest kind of impressed me because, well, that's not something that VLFs are known to be able to do. And this one did it pretty good. I don't know about the Equinox yet. That's why I said I had to get with Mark Hoover, because I think he has an Equinox, and we can kind of just go through some testing with these machines just to see what they're capable of and what they're not capable of. I mean, obviously the Equinox and the Quest and a lot of these newer machines, the CTX, they're all good machines. They all find you stuff, and they have quirks about them. Every machine does, whether it's a performance quirk or the way it was made or what have you. But it's good to know that anyways. Craig, a lot of times you see comparison videos too, and they get to beating up a machine real bad, or they're not familiar with that machine, so they don't. It's kind of hard to test a new machine when you don't know a lot about it to give it a fair shake. And especially when you're comparing it to a machine that you've known for 5 or 10, whatever years. Obviously, you're going to know how to use your personal machine better. But I find that when they're doing the comparison video, that they'll actually make adjustments on the new one, obviously because they're learning it, it makes sense. But they don't necessarily do any adjustments on the older one to improve it in different ways too. It's kind of I don't know, it's like a scale, it's weighing either side, and the more adjustments you make with one to make it better, but you're not doing it with the other detector the same way, you know what I mean, Craig? It's not giving it a fair shake, either one of them really.
Yeah. That's
why I went to the straight hunt, mark out an area and a 20 by 20 or whatever, and take each detector over it and mark the ground where the targets are at, regardless of which machine finds them. I use golf tees, different colored golf tees, red, white, and blue, and I'll pick one machine and give it a color, the other machine. But I also go back over and see if I can, once I've marked it all out with one machine and then in the other, I go back over it, make adjustments to either machine to see if I can tune those other targets in that the other machine got that the first one didn't, or vice versa. It gives you a level playing field that way, I think, and you're not beating up any, you're just showing what the machine will do. When you start getting into this, I've seen a couple of them. It's not all
videos are, the most controversial.
Yeah, it is.
It's videos because it pisses people off.
Well,
I
look more from a technical standpoint, but
they were, all these arguments with this one guy got mad and quit the site because he was complaining about all these guys are arguing too much about, different machines doing this better than the other. And, he's just trying to find out information, and
right.
All they're doing is fighting among themselves about it. And I was and I kind of looked on the site, and I kind of agreed with the guy about halfway. I mean, there were some people.
Don't take it so
personal.
Guys
knew what they were doing, but
right.
Yeah,
Don't take it so personally. He's trying to, whoever's doing the video, they're probably trying to do the best job they can with it. And, every once in a while you run into one that's falsified or whatever is full of it. But I mean, it's not very, very often. A lot of times it's just, well, you think about it, Craig. I mean, somebody gives you another detector. And if you hadn't been, doing all these videos before, with Bliss Tool and everything, you'd get the thing and you'd use it and you'd video it and you might use your other detector. There's no rhyme or reason to it because you've never done one of those videos before. So all these little blurps or whatever you want to say where you kind of didn't show one or the other the best way you could have. I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, once you get some experience doing these videos and what I look for is a more technical side. I don't worry about what they're finding so much. Or finding or what that looks like or anything. I'm just going totally by performance because I want a machine that's going to do better than the one I have now. And it doesn't care if it's purple and pink. I don't care as long as it's hitting a dime at 10, 12 inches down. Hey, that's awesome. I can look however it wants to look as long as I can get a good target with it. But a lot of these things become like a Ford and Chevy Dodge argument. You got your people, Chevy guys, Ford guys, or whatever, and they're going to argue like crazy amongst themselves. But it still doesn't change the fact that each one of them has a vehicle that gets around and goes. You know what I mean? It does what what it's going to do. So it's kind of like those kind of. I know you got beat up pretty hard about your Deus video a while back, but then again, a lot of people liked it. It was one of your top performers. But you didn't do anything bad there. You just did a regular video. I've always said if you guys disagree with somebody on their comparison video, and you think that maybe you have that detector. You say, well, my detector will do that. Make a video. Do the same doggone test, identical to the way that person did, and see if you can do it. And if you can, or can't, doesn't matter, but post it up. I mean, I did it. I mean, there's a guy.
It's funny, the depth tests are the ones that do it. The one I did comparing the Bliss Tool and the Deus on nails, they both did, pretty much the same on them,
right.
And there's no other machines that, not too many machines that'll even do that nowadays. But
yeah, that's what it's about.
But
it doesn't.
That was something that I didn't get any criticism much over that. But
right.
But comparing the Deus and the other machines, in a depth test, that upsets people.
Yeah.
And people were making wild claims. And
that's what
they were talking about. And they were claiming they were getting 12-inch dimes and
every
middle
dog
of the
has
line detector action, basically.
Yeah.
Upper middle of the line detector.
Mm-hmm.
I have one, and
testing is a science, Craig. That's you got to be. Any test you run in science, you do it over and over again and achieve the same result to make it the way it is. Mm-hmm. It's not, every dog has its day. What I've had it happen with several machines. Find a target that's so doggone deep it blows your mind that the detector hit it. But how many of you dug at that depth or even close to that depth? Not very many, because every once in a while you get the perfect conditions. Your swing was just perfect. You slowed down at the right time, and you're going to get the 12-inch dime. I mean, it will happen. I had a guy, Tom Jones down there in St. Pete, 16.5-inch mercury dime down in the sand. It's right on the beach. So you get down that deep, you're going to start hitting really moist. It's almost like a damp saltwater sand that way. But 16.5 inches with the Bliss Tool with the 11-inch coil. That's good, damn good depth. I mean, I can repeatably do it at 14. Every single time whatever I bury it and I measure it, the Bliss Tool's going to hit it. So that's a repeatable. And that's what impressed me about the Quest was that, hey, I know that even the Deus had a hard time with a dime with the 8-inch coil. Getting it at 9 inches or 8 inches. I think it was 9 inches you were doing it because it was there. You had to listen to the high tweak in there, but it wasn't like locking on big time. This machine actually locks onto it. I mean, you're actually beep, beep, beep. You're getting on a 10-inch dime. That's really a 9-inch dime. That's really good for any detector. Actually, any detector you can get one at 8 inches. That's good.
I dug a 10-inch half dime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. and it was in pretty sandy soil, but it was a place where this guy took me to, that all this stuff had been found, and he wanted to see if I could pull anything out of there, and I pulled a bunch of buttons. I got two Navy, early Navy cuffs that had gold all over them.
Mm-hmm.
And I got this 1861 half dime. It looked like it was almost in mint shape, but the camp was there in 1861, 62.
Yeah.
But I was, when I walked into this little area, it was probably as big as my living room, and you could see that the whole place had been dug. There was, you could see plug marks, but they were, camped down and everything, but it's back in the middle of the woods, and it's just this one area that wasn't that big, and that was funny. Saw that half dime come out of the ground.
Yeah,
the guy claimed that over 30 some years, no silver coin had ever come out of there.
It doesn't surprise. I have some sites like that we. I decided at one point that Bushnell, Florida, didn't ever have any mercury dimes in it ever, because I hadn't found one in like 2 years, and I finally started, coming across them. Every once in a blue moon I'd come across one, but I'd find more barber dimes and regular clad dimes than I ever did mercury dimes. It's weird, and I don't, I'm not sure why.
I found so many mercury dimes. The things I couldn't find very much of was Indian heads and V-nickels and barber stuff.
Yeah.
It was more or less, like 1940s, 1935 era, housing and stuff. So it wasn't as much. When you found a barber dime, it was so worn. It was like, really, probably, in the lowest condition. It was just, you could sometimes most of the date was even rubbed off.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably circulation up into the 30s, but not many of them were.
Right. I guess, even making the videos, Craig, I mean, I went through painstakingly, it seemed like sometimes, to set up for a educational video, test video, whatever, on depth or whatever I was doing, whether it was nail bed test or whatever, that I would spend, if it was a 7 or 8 minute video, it seemed like 6 minutes of it was setting up for the shot, showing, okay, the hole's open, there's nothing in the hole, there's nothing in the plug, here's the item, put it in the bottom, bury it down, tap it down, I haven't changed anything, this is what it is, and then you spend a minute doing the actual test video, and I pretty much got away from that. I mean, I don't mind being thorough, but I think over the past 4 or 5 years, I've just gotten to the point now where, hey, if you don't believe me, bury it yourself, because I know it'll do it.
Yeah, you're either going to believe it or you're not.
Yeah, you can bury... if I tell you the bliss tool will hit a 10 or 12 inch dime or whatever, it will do it. As long as you're running reasonable settings, it'll do it. For you or anybody else. That's why my testing went, instead of going for extreme depth, like Ahmed was doing it too. I mean, like 25 inches through mineralized rock. He did one with a U.S. dime, and I think it was, I want to say 15 or 20 of those red tile, like roofing tiles. They're mineralized. Over in Bulgaria, there's a lot of mineralization in those bricks or whatever you want to call them. And he stacked a bunch of those.
They're Roman roofing tiles.
Roman roofing tiles, whatever. They're really mineralized, made out of mineralized stuff. But it was able to get that dime through 15 or 20 of them. And that's all well and good. But is somebody like, I don't care. I put one in Bill Marsh's hand and say, yeah, you can get a quarter through 25 inches of mineralized rock with this machine, and you hand it to him. Well, he's going to take it out of the box, and he's going to try it, and it's not going to work for him because he doesn't know the machine. He hasn't had any time with it or nothing. So that's why, when me and Med talked about that a while back, that let's make realistic testing that's pretty much standard. And this is the way you do it, because I want to show you something the metal detector to do that it can do, that you can make it do. Not something that I'm very good with the machine and I can get a 30-inch silver dollar with this thing. with a bliss tool with an
Yeah.
11-inch coil. But are you going to be able to do it? Just buying it? Probably not. I mean, because you have no idea where you need to be at with that machine. So
it's a serious machine.
It's not a toy.
Especially the V6, and it's not for everybody.
No.
I'm convinced of that. I mean, I can't get Mike to try it. He doesn't. He doesn't.
Well, you couldn't get the other guy
He
next door to do it either, but he
No,
eventually uses it. Now he does it.
Wanted to try it out. And, I showed him a few things, and he said, yeah, I'll take it.
But even
he's still using the machine.
Even the V3 models, I have no, and yeah, Craig and I talked about the bliss tool a lot. We spent a lot of time with that machine. I still love the machine. Absolutely will. It's my go-to machine. Absolutely, hands down. Product is solid. I had a lot of problems with the politics and stuff on the business side of it. That was my problem, but not with the product itself. I mean, there's hands down. I do not worry about taking this machine out to a new site, old site, whatever else. I know if there's something there and I get my coil over it, it's going to hear it at any kind, within reason, depth wise, better than anything else on the market right now. It's just done it too many times. Now, does it get beat once in a while? Yeah. I mean, like Craig said, he found a quarter at 4 inches next to a piece of iron with a Deus that he didn't get with the bliss tool. Well, there's a lot of factors in there too, but it's which angle you're coming from and everything else. But it doesn't change the fact that more often than not, it's about, I would say, 90% dead on, Craig? I mean, it seems like, anyways.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much.
I mean, there's no comparison on depth at all with that. The Deus is, top line machine.
Well, to me, it was important to do those tests, all these tests, so that a person could take the machine, pretty much put basic settings into the machine, and make it do the same test. And that's what I'd like to see in a lot of these. No matter which detector you're using, if you're making a video, unless you're calling it extreme depth or something, I mean, you're pushing the machine to its limit and making a video about that. That's all cool. But what I get upset with is they grab a machine, they figure, these guys that really know it, and that's what they're getting paid to do the video for, showing you what the machine can do. But if they're doing it as an educational for a person that's going to buy the machine, it kind of gives them a false, it does. It gives them a false hope, because are they going to be able to pull that machine out and do that same test that he's doing? Probably not. I probably wouldn't be able to do it with the machine, because he knows the machine better than I do. So I just wanted to get tests that everybody could do. That they could achieve the same results, and that's, to me, it's a solid product that way. So sometimes doing a video and getting the machine with certain settings. That's why I haven't really. Well, Craig, we really haven't even gone into that, and we may very well do that with these different settings you can use for these bliss tools that will do stuff that will blow your mind. It still blows my mind, and I'm still figuring out more stuff with it. It's just like going, supercharged, 10 on the ground balance, and, running the threshold up with the silencer, and these combinations that you can hunt with. But you got to know when to use them. It's just kind of like having different kinds of ammunition. You have certain circumstances and mineralization and soil moistures and everything else. Once, you get an idea of the situation you're in, you may be able to go to these settings. But like the 30-inch silver dollar, there's probably not a lot of you that can do that with a bliss tool. I think I did that with a V3. I wasn't even a V5 or 6. I don't even know. I got tired of digging that deep, to plant this stuff to do the testing is really what happened. But, I've seen a med make this machine. He can actually get better depth out of it than me. And I think, was it 60 centimeters? I can't remember. He was doing those tubes, Craig, and it's like 3 foot on, or something like that on, I think it was a $50 or something like that, $50 size coin. That's huge depth. And he's going through mineralized rock. Well, I don't have any of that thick around here, an outcropping. And he's putting gold francs and U.S. quarters and stuff underneath there, and obviously getting them even with the 11-inch coil. That's crazy power. It's a power across the board. It's just not gain. That's the ability of the machine to be able to do it. And I don't think there's anything that can touch that. I mean, Bliss Tool competes with any pulse machine. I mean, GPX is, it's right on the cusp And I think there's stuff that the pulse machines can do better, obviously, than the VLF does, anyways. But the fact that we were able to stand our ground with them within an inch or two of depth, that's huge because there's nothing that, I mean, TDI won't keep. That's a pulse machine. The Infinity, the GPX 5000. That's a kick-ass machine right there. But I just don't. I've never gotten into pulse machines, Craig. If I was out in the gold fields somewhere in Australia, hell yeah, I'd have a GPX. I'd list tool too, though, because I think it. I've seen it. I hit stud earrings and stuff like that. Really small items, pieces of brass off a button. Craig, you've done it with primers, the flint or the caps, percussion caps.
I'm seeing guys now.
Oh my God,
Virginia using them in good ground.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going for iron, deep iron.
Right.
And they're hit target sites that have deep iron in them and digging like rifle barrels and bayonets, all kinds of stuff, And,
well, that
was funny. This one guy, he got this signal and he dug down, and the first thing he hit was this big ration can, which is, iron.
Right.
Kind of leaded tin or some kind of
weird. Well, probably a lead seal. Yeah, lead seal on it or whatever.
But anyway, they kind of rot into, they're still kind of square looking, but they're all corroded and everything.
That might be messing a lot of people up on
sites too. They'll be in the bottom of a, kind of like at one side of the HUD site, in a trash area. But,
right.
One guy dug that up, and he was like, "Dang it, that was what it was." And then he goes back over the thing, and he gets about 30 bullets in a pile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably in that ration can.
Yeah, the ration can was kind of blocking the signal.
Well, that's what I meant, more or less. That how many of those ration cans, when you think about encampment, my God, those things could be, they just didn't throw them in a trash can. They just probably just tossed them out whatever. But all that stuff broke down over the years. No wonder you guys have a hard time up there. You get into these, what we call trashy site with a lot of iron and stuff. Those cans probably play havoc, I would think,
Yeah.
Where you think there's nothing
like
there.
Iron spoons and forks.
Yeah. Wagon parts and plows, guns.
Maybe they had even tin plates. I don't know, but
artillery shells, weren't those? What were those made out of? The artillery shells themselves. I heard about one guy using
iron.
Is it mostly iron, right? Yeah. I mean, you're talking,
and
a damn. Those things can be 3 foot, 4 foot down by now. I mean, I would think, if sinking over the years and everything else. Sometimes they're right on top.
Dug, a foot or two deep. I've seen them. I dug one. The one I dug, the 12-pounder, it was 2.5 feet down, but they'd cut the road. It was like it was like off the. It was off the state road. It wasn't a state maintained road, and they were putting a new housing project in, so they kind of scraped along the one side of the road where it was kind of at a little slant. They kind of leveled it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at the end of a day, and I'd gotten to the end of the road, and I was going to hunt this last little section and then head back home. And I got this signal, and it was banging so hard. It was right in the clay too.
Mm-hmm.
And dug down, 2.5 feet, but it was probably 4 feet deep, before they scraped all that stuff away.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if I would have been able to pick that up. Maybe with a bliss tool I could have, but
yeah.
I'm sure I could have. Probably.
Oh, I know you could have.
I don't know.
I dug a.
I had the Nautilus, but.
I dug an iron from the old cast iron things that you iron your clothes with. You set them on a wood burner. Dug that shoulder deep in the ground and nailed it. I mean, it was, and that was in a trashy area too. But I mean, the signal never wavered. I knew it was iron, but it's something big. And I got down a foot. I still didn't get it. 2 foot, nothing. I'm down there barely where I can reach it, and I can feel it right at the bottom. It's like I didn't even know what it was. The way it was shaped, it was kind of up on end. I thought maybe it was like an axe head or a maul or something like that to split wood. It was actually up on end, and I pulled it out of there. I'm like, holy crap! I mean, it's probably, I don't know how much they weigh, about 5 pounds or something like that. But still, I mean, it's not that big of a. It's probably about the size of your iPhone, Craig, maybe a little bit bigger. That's not, and when it's sitting on edge like that or up on end. I mean, hell yeah, that was, I've done that with the V3 for crying out loud. That's where I dug that meteorite was big time deep. And it blows your mind with the kind of depth you can get with these machines. And it depends on coils too. I mean, I talk about the AT Pro all the time because I saw the difference myself between the stock coil and the Tornado coil. I mean, it's just, it kind of floored me. Yes, it's a bigger coil, but I think, those Nell coils are kick-ass anyways. They just, I don't know, they work better. I don't know whether it's obviously the design of them and stuff, but, the performance is there for it. But yeah, you get these deep targets, these deep iron signals. I'd say dig a couple of them just to see what the heck they are. You might surprise yourself. I mean, I've dug stuff that I probably never even thought of digging up before, as far as iron stuff. But like Civil War stuff, Craig, you said a bunch of stuff was made out of iron anyway, and the iron during the Civil War was some of the best iron around. So I'm sure. Well, during the Revolutionary War and stuff like that was pig iron, but
I've dug iron stirrups up, gun parts, gun tools, lock plates.
Yep.
Barrel band,
drawer pulls, everything.
Barrel band in the yard here, in Middletown. I've dug the bands with the loop where you put the belt on. All kinds of stuff like that. I've dug hammers. I dug that trigger guard. I dug several of those, but most of those are iron. Some of them are butt caps. They're iron usually. That's a nice find.
I mean, we're not saying to go out there and dig all the iron you can, but I'm just saying don't pass up. If do it one or two times on your trip, wherever you're hunting at. If you have it's a loud signal, you probably know it's iron, but man, it's coming through, pretty good. Dig down there and see what it is. I mean, I saw one guy that was using, and Craig, I had to laugh because I just didn't know what to think of it. He was using those, and I forget what they call them technically. The ones you hold, that's like a rod with the coils actually, you front and back. It's like carrying a board down, alongside of you. It's not like a traditional metal detector. It's more for catch hunting and stuff like that, big or large items. But he was going through there and he was finding, I think it was I'm just going to say it was an alternator or something like that. It was actually smaller than that. But anyways, oh God, that thing was down 1.5 feet. That was deep. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you're carrying that thing around. And I know my detector will hit that thing all day long. I've dug a motor at almost 3.5 feet down one time. I had a huge hole going. It was one of those old electric motors, probably from the, I'm going to say 50s. And it was probably about the size of a 3-pound coffee can, down in the ground. And that thing was like huge depth, so I don't need, I didn't need to carry that other, what do they call those, Craig? You know what I'm talking about, right? The ones you carry around with you in your hand. It has a coil in the front of it, and a different kind of coil in the back, sending and receiving coils.
Oh yeah, 2-box.
Yeah, that's what that's what I mean about. It's right on the tip of my tongue, and I couldn't remember. But yeah, that's what he was using. But he wasn't hitting anything that I don't think a lot of the modern detectors wouldn't hit too. I mean, obviously he was trying it out, field testing it. I'm not knocking him on that at all. But it didn't show me anything that most of the detectors out here probably could hit some of those targets real easy, because they weren't, when you're talking about that surface area, like a hubcap, God, most of the detectors out there, if it's laying 2 foot down on the ground, I think every metal detector has made in the last 2 years that hit that in a heartbeat, in the ground at 2 foot, because it's such a big target. So I don't know, it'd probably drive you nuts more than it would do anything else around, in this area, unless you're looking for something specific. Like there was a buried money somewhere, or I don't know, gold detecting. I don't know if you'd ever use it or not for main vein, the vein right there of gold, and I don't know how that all works. I haven't prospected a lot, but I just didn't see a need for that unless you're doing specific kind of hunting. I'm sure down in like South America and stuff like that, or even over in
I used to get people from South America and Central America, and people from the Philippines, and they want to, buy these, 2-box detectors.
Right.
And I go, I try to almost talk them out of it, and I go, what if you get a signal and it's down like 20 feet deep? How are you going to get it out of the ground?
Yeah.
Or 10 feet deep, or 5 feet deep even.
Yeah, people don't understand. Once you get down to
quite a hole, you don't know until you start digging. Even a 12-inch hole gets kind of hard sometimes.
Yeah. That's why, guys,
But,
you're out there digging, and me and Mike Miller did that.
Rocky ground, and I don't know. It's a crazy hobby. People, especially when they don't know what they're doing. They think it's got to be simple, and.
Well, I think too, Craig.
Especially in the old days, we didn't have the information you got now on the internet. I had another guy last night message me and ask me questions about detecting and gold panning and stuff like that, and I was telling him, I said, there's some gold, coming through Virginia, but it's this flower gold mostly, and, there's hardly ever been any nuggets found, but I know there's been some, but nothing spectacular.
I think if too, Craig,
if gold vein that runs through Maryland and through Virginia and all the way down into Georgia, I believe. But it kind of concentrates more down in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's if you're doing hut sites,
how easy it is to do, and I go, if it's you got to have experience. It's probably easy if you go to a good place that's never been hunted before, or panned or whatever you're doing. But it's a competitive hobby. I mean, look how competitive, metal detecting's gotten.
Right. Well, too, I mean, there's a purpose for every detector. And even that one, if you were, like in Virginia, you're looking for hut sites, that probably wouldn't be, if you had an idea of where, because they had those organized for the most part. That's what you always told me, Craig. If you find one, they're going to be in a line from there. That probably wouldn't be a bad detector to use in that environment. I don't know how well it works in a mineralized ground or what have you, but, that's a specific thing. You're going after hut sites and stuff like that. That type of detector may do you well. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a fixed location, pretty much know where their stuff is. But are you going to carry this thing out in the middle of the woods?
There's a you can make these machines. I think there's diagrams on the internet, and you can actually make these detectors yourself.
Right.
But it's an all metal machine called a Double Eagle.
Right.
And you basically have a 25-inch coil, and it's all wood, and you basically had to swing this thing with two hands. But it will, it'll dig stuff down 3 feet deep.
Right.
And, but it's going in all metal. And there was a hunt years ago that was part of that DIV thing, and they had it down in Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a place that we'd always wanted to hunt. And we hunted all around it, and there was stuff all around it, that people would let us hunt. But
right.
One lady, it was like out on a peninsula that looked over it was next to two creeks. One creek ran on one side and went on the other, and right on the tip was a Confederate Star Ford. We tried to hunt in the water there, and nobody wanted you to hunt, but it was legal. And the people were saying, "You can't hunt there; it's our property." And I go, "No, it isn't.
Public land, whatever."
It's Virginia waters, is what
right.
it is.
Yeah.
But we have a permit. So, but there was so many pennies. This woman must have thrown like hundreds of pennies in the water trying to discourage relic hunters.
They do that on the beaches too. I had instance a couple years
ago. Well, anyways,
like
this place has never been hunted, is what they said.
Right.
Because this woman was so vigilant in keeping people out.
Right.
And so it's kind of like this other hunt I'd been to, later on, years later, and kind of in another part of Stafford. Same thing. It's never been hunted, and it had been hunted to death to the point where there was hardly anything there. And so this guy, people found a couple scattered things, and it was like 200 people at this hunt, and huge field where the whole Corps was there.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy Gary Williams, I believe, who was from I think North Carolina or something, he had one of those Double Eagles, and he was a veteran hunter. He'd been hunting for over 30 years back in the 90s, I think it was. And so he comes out with that thing, and he starts going across the field, and he stops, and he takes a shovel. He had a entrenching shovel like mine, and he dig a divot, and he goes, hut site right there. And then he go a little further, make another divot. Then he walked over to the right until he got another signal, and he picked out a line of hut sites going across the field, two lines.
Cool.
So he was telling people, there's hut sites. If you dig down 2 or 3 feet, you'll hit this hut site. And so by the second day, I think there was over 150 plates found on that field. And bottles, you wouldn't believe the bottles that were found. And these guys they started digging straight down. And so anyway, it was a funny story that nobody was supposed to, after they did the 3-day hunt, nobody was supposed to go back or ask for permission to go back to these people.
Right.
So one of the guys that I bought a Nautilus from, and one of the top white stealers in the area, and a bunch of other guys got together, and they approached the landowners, and they worked out a deal where they paid $1,000 each for 9 months of, what was it? I think they got 2 days a week on the weekend.
That's not bad, though, really, when you think about it. I mean, if it's gonna be, you're gonna find some good stuff. I mean, for 9 months of hunting, that's a lot of.
So anyway, they did this. They start like the one guy I knew real good. He found fabulous stuff there, and found a Virginia saber belt plate even.
Yep.
Even though it was a Union camp, turned out there had been some Confederates there, and there was another camp on top of the old one. And it was at a different angle. So later in the war, I guess they camped there. Somebody camped there, and
you hit the mother lode
or whatever.
It's a mother lode of hut sites.
But anyway, you wouldn't believe the bottles. He was finding whiskey bottles and
beer bottles,
ink wells, and all kinds of stuff. But and most of the time, you'd find like 60 to 100 bullets, and down in one of those heights, coins. What else? Buttons, belt buckles. A lot of times they'd have at least 3 plates in a hole.
Wow.
Breastplate, box plate. Depending on how many guys were in the hut site. A lot of times they'd have 4 to a hut. But but anyway, they didn't tell anybody. There was I think there was about 10 of them. Well, anyway, Steve was a carpenter, and so the people's porch was all messed up. And so he replaced the steps one day while the people weren't there. And they come back, and here's these brand new steps.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh my God, how'd this happen? And so Steve goes, man, I'm a carpenter. I went ahead and fixed them up. And so
that's
this
cool
other
of
guy
him.
says, hey man, your house needs some painting, and I'm a painter. If you buy the paint, I'll paint your house for you.
Heck yeah, that's horse trading.
So it got so where they wanted to see what the guys found, and they got real friendly, and it was almost like everybody got together on the porch at the end of the day talking and stuff. I got invited down there one time, but it got to the point where they said you can come anytime you want, and you can bring friends.
Yeah, there you go.
So I kicked myself because I didn't go down there, when I could have. But
well, hey, the hindsight's 20/20, man.
I had some hindsight, but I thought that was a pretty good story.
Yeah, it's always nice to help out. It's kind of like you talk about fixing the steps and everything. A lot of us do that same thing just because we normally would anyways. Help. Like you had a buddy, he's a painter, and you got him in was that Mike, right? Mike's a painter, or was that somebody else that was painting your house?
No.
Well, anyways,
Howard,
yeah. He was wanting to get into metal detecting. He said, well, I'm a painter, and Craig's paying him to paint the house, and he teaches him how to metal detect or sells him a metal detector or whatever. It kind of goes hand in hand. I've had a lot.
Actually, he was a buddy of mine at metal detector for years.
Yeah,
and, I met him years ago, and we hunted for a long time. But I think the guy I haven't heard from him in about 3 or 4 years, and maybe about 3 years. And last time I was there, something had happened where I think he's going into dementia. He's like in his late 50s at the time.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
And I'd heard a couple things, but I haven't. It's like I can't contact him now. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened.
Yeah, it seems like you could do, you do a few, I don't even call them good deeds. We do them all. We horse trade all the time. It's like, Allie, I've known Allie for years, and usually a lot of these, well, not everybody, but a lot of people, or at least her, she doesn't start on trees until like October. But I make a phone call, she comes out, we talk for a little while. She goes, okay, I'll come out here, probably in the beginning of October. Well, so I wanted to get the trees down sooner, obviously, because I'm trying to get up, another place to put on here. But she said, well, can I bring my boom truck over and I'll just leave it here? So if I have a little bit of time, after work, because she actually works at the prison and has another lawn care business, tree cutting business. I mean, she's always running. But she took out all these trees over here next to me. We never had a problem. One, and she's real good about it. But, you help each other back and forth, is what it amounts to. And, I don't know. I could have paid big money to have this stuff done. I didn't want to pay that. I'd do it myself, but the trees, because of our property, I can't do it. Well, I can. I hit the block and tackle every single tree and hope I don't hit a power line or whatever else, because the situation I'm in here, I just can't just drop a tree. It has to be, the safest way is to boom them out of there. But anyways, just stuff like that, where people wouldn't normally do it. But hey, if she wants to go out metal detector, take her out metal detector or whatever. We trade back and forth. Maybe she needs some work done on something, some welding done. So we do that all the time around here. It's just, I guess you call it, no, there's another word I'm not going to remember, Craig. I don't know. You're doing stuff for them and you're doing stuff for you. This kind of bargaining back and forth.
Yeah.
I call it horse trading. But,
reciprocating.
Right. I mean, I got one guy that's, he's looking for he was looking for a VCR and a TV. I was talking to him down the road here. Anybody has a VCR and a TV? I just need one for my shop. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got an extra one here. You can have it, because I don't, I had it sitting in storage. So he comes over. He goes, oh, you got a Blazer for sale? I said, yeah. He goes, well, I might know somebody that might want that. So he goes down the road. There's a little guy on the 2 streets over, comes over, and he wants to buy it. It's just a little project truck I bought for myself, and I'm not really, don't have the time to do it. So he said, well, can I make payments to you, once a week or something? I'm like, yeah, just, leave it here. And, whenever you pay it off, I'll give you the title for it. Well, it turns out, he needs some work done, some welding done. So I'm going to help him on that. And he said, he'll pay me a little bit here or there, or we'll trade. I don't know. It's kind of fun in a way, the horse trading back and forth. And usually you're getting stuff, cheaper than what you could buy it brand new, obviously. But you make a lot of relationships. That's friendships, relationships, whatever. It helps you out. Like I have this guy at the toll bridge, the toll bridge property, the owner there. And he stopped by, asked, borrowed a metal detector. No problem, brother. Here's a metal detector. Go ahead and, let me know if you need any help. If you're having any problems, I'll come over and help you with it. But that works out hand in hand. He'll, he let me come on his property and hunt. And I'll do something for him. It's just the way it goes. That's the way it should be. Everybody's happy that way. But but Craig, I was looking at it. It's 9:45. I don't want to have a 2-hour show tonight.
No, okay. Oh, God, I thought it was like maybe 8:45.
Oh yeah, I've just been losing my
time. Go by so fast.
I talk too much. My voice starts going.
Yeah.
Oh God.
You need to slow down.
I know, man. It's like I'm on
like
speed or something.
You're like one of those disc jockeys. They talk so fast because they want to get much information in that they can.
I don't know why I do. Well, I do the same thing on a telephone. With me and Craig, when we do this show, it's like being on a telephone. We talk, quite often, but I don't know. I get running at the mouth too much. I don't know. I just get. I hate dead air time. If that makes sense, Craig. If I don't say something every minute, I'm like, oh God, people are going to stop tuning in or whatever. I got to have something to talk about. So
you get that 5-second pause.
That hour long. It seems like. But anyways, guys, I'm wrap it up for tonight, Craig, and I'll see if I get out detecting this week. I tried twice last week, but then she came over to do the trees and stuff. I posted up that video, guys, I think I posted it up the Hardcore Facebook page. Hardcore Metal Detecting Facebook page. If you want to check it out, it's just Allie's up in this bucket, 50-foot vertical up in the air, and we have a tree rigged off, and I got a video of it. It was halfway decent of how high the trees are and everything. But she dropped this thing down just perfectly and everything, I thought, anyways. So we've had to do it with just about every tree in the bigger ones in the yard. There actually have about 8 more that have to come out that are actually really leaning over, like the pump house and everything. It's just got like a minute-long video. I don't think it was longer than that. But if you want to check it out, it's on Hardcore Metal Detecting Facebook page. You can hear us on Thursdays and Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Spreaker.com, and check out the other shows, the other metal detecting shows on. All of us run different formats and talk about different things. Some people have guests on, some people don't. It's just a variety for y'all, and you can download shows too. If you missed one of the shows, you can download it, listen to it tomorrow on the way to work or whatever, or do like I do and just put the shows on and when I'm out in my shop or something like that, and just let them play, so I get caught up on everybody else's show, because there's a lot of them. You never listen to all the shows. Well, maybe Bill Marsh will. Bill's probably downloaded more of the shows across the board, but he listens to about every single one of them, Bill, and I do appreciate that. I know you enjoy it too, but you always can count on Bill to be on chat or whatever. He's always listening, and a lot of you other guys too, Bob D, and really all the ones on our Mark Hoover and Earl, and you guys are on here all the time. There's probably several more on here. I'm Nelson Sauter. I've seen him on here before. But thanks, guys, for being on chat. Tell a friend. Sure to like and follow the shows, and I know we all appreciate that. But Craig, I want to wrap it up. I'm going to stop talking now.
All right.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good night, good weekend, and we'll talk to you on Thursday night. So get out there, keep digging, and God bless.